Congratulations, folks. It's another Freaky Friday on the beat, another off-season week in the rearview mirror, and a very busy one it was, and a very busy weekend on tap for Ohio State as well. He is Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. Ross Bjork spoke on Thursday, which is actually right now as we're still standing here.
So yeah, because we're wearing the same clothes we wore on Snap Judgments yesterday.
Full transparency here on the beat. We've turned over a new leaf to go do that for you all. So no more jokes about that. But as we look at what Ross Bjork talked about with the football program specifically, we set aside the money. It's more a conversation about Ohio State advocating for itself to play night games. I think Ross Bjork said it 6 times, more night games. They're trying to enhance the atmosphere. And then I think a pretty clear picture of where Ohio State wants and expects the playoff expansion conversation to go. Whether it's 14 or 16, hey, other people can decide, but they want automatic qualifiers. And I feel like there were some seeds planted for non-conference scheduling to be softened up. But out of all of that, what do you think was the most important football-specific aspect from Ross Bjork?
To me, it's about just the way that all these things combine together. The night game idea is fine and great if you're having marquee opponents. Okay, Ohio State does have a night game in September. It's against Ohio University. It's fine to do all these renovations to the horseshoe. And he said that they're looking into a new video board for 2026. They're looking at new LED ribbons. They're looking at different lighting and different sounds. And but none of that stuff matters if you're not playing a night game, because a lot of that stuff isn't even going to show up in the middle of the day. So like all these things work together, but all of it goes back to Ohio State understanding that they have to modernize the facilities around here to keep up with where the football program is going. The football program is a rocket ship right now. Some of the stuff that we see, and again, we're in a beautiful building here, but it has a little bit of a older feel to it. So when you're trying to just modernize and get up to speed with where everyone else is around the country, you don't want to play that game too much because it's changing every year. But Ohio State is one thing Ross Bjork said over and over again in different categories in discussions. Ohio State's always going to be at the front of it. So the Buckeyes are wanting to make sure that they're putting themselves in those spots. And I thought that he shed a lot of light for people on the TV deals and saying, hey, there is no flexibility. It's not like they just aren't being given it. It's like there is not any to have. So these deals have been written. They're $7 billion television deals. It is what it is. So it frustrates people. But I think, if anything, I hope people who saw the Ross Bjork press conference feel better knowing that there's an equal amount of frustration in this building as there is in the fan base about some of these things.
Yeah, he felt like he wanted to make a couple more jokes about this bill and the state bill in the House about banning noon games and having top 10 games played elsewhere.
I think he wanted to make fun of the legislature in that time.
Well, I think yes, but he also said that he understands why the fans feel that way, and if they needed to organize a rally, I think that's what the joke he was about to make. You could go do that in the horseshoe if you want. We'll lend it out to you for free. But the truth of the matter, and I know that people get sick of hearing this part of it, is that Ohio State, and Ross Bjork reiterated it a bunch of times, they'd like to play more night games. They don't want to play every single game at noon. But it isn't even just about night games. It's about flexibility. Yeah. They had been planning and trying to work with Fox dating back to last October or November, I think he said about moving that Texas game. And Fox was open to the idea, as we've touched on this before. Ross Bjork was advocating for that. Fox was open to moving it. They couldn't move it on that actual Saturday because CBS isn't locked in at 3:30. NBC is locked into primetime. And then Texas had a contract that prevented them from moving the date. And he said that he understood all that. We've covered all of that ground, but it's not something that is going to be changed until 2029, after the 2029 season at the earliest. And this has been a recurring topic of conversation. What does Ohio State need in the future? Ross Bjork said flexibility. I think it's actually financial pieces here, because Ohio State, if they're going to continue to play these games, they need a larger share of the revenue. And I think as we tied that up into everything that we talked about on Thursday on Snap Judgments coming out of the Ross Bjork press conference, this is not a program that is going to shirk away from finding those revenue streams. So you're either going to give them the one thing, which is if they want to play a game at night, you're going to help them do that, or you're going to pay them more money. That's probably going to happen too. So it may be both of those things happening.
It's the one thing Ross Bjork said repeatedly on Thursday, which is we're carrying the weight. Like they know, Fox knows, the television numbers know. It doesn't lie. Ohio State's games are more watched than anyone else. And so Fox obviously wants to keep putting them in that spot because that's where they're getting the most bang for their buck. So Ohio State needs to get some of the bang back, essentially.
Get the bang back.
They need to get some of that bang buck back.
Okay.
And the way you get that is by A, giving them a bigger cut, or B, giving them the flexibility to have the night games where they can draw a different type of bonus from it. Because the night game bonus is recruiting. It's the vibe. It's the television market. It's the sights and sounds. It's the pictures that are always on the walls of fireworks at night. Like those things that's where they get some of that back. So they just need some of that bonus bang buck back.
Bonus Buckeyes, Bucks back.
Yep.
Bang.
Bang.
Got it.
Overall, though, I mean, pretty impressive, display by Ross Bjork on Friday, which we talked about on Snap Judgment, so you don't need to hear me say it again. But pretty chill guy.
Yeah.
Hey, he's Ross, pretty chill guy. Ross likes to party. We know that.
Ross does like to party, and I love that about him too. If you missed Snap Judgments, by the way, you can see that on 97.1 The Fan's YouTube.
We're wearing the same clothes.
10 TV Plus, and every podcast platform. So you can go back and listen to that after we get done talking about the rest of this, which I think we have kind of avoided the playoff expansion conversation because it almost doesn't really matter to Ohio State.
Right.
I thought that this was the most impactful statement. Prisoner of the moment, Austin Ward, that's me. Recency bias. Ross Bjork saying, hey, we can go back to 4. That's fine for Ohio State. That's the biggest threat that I've heard out of anyone.
True,
the SEC is talking about their strength of schedule, and Greg Sankey's handing out some beautiful pie charts and making presentations and saying, oh, we're the greatest conference in the world. We need all these spots. And Ohio State's like, cool. If we have to win games on the field, if it's going to be win the Big Ten or else, Ohio State has been in the mix every single year.
Every iteration.
They don't always get in, and sometimes there's debate about strength of schedule here, college ball playoff selection committee there, this game, that game, and that stuff still has to be worked out. There's no question about that part. But it was almost slipped in, and it was a real subtle jab. If we can retract this thing back to 4, Ohio State's cool with that. And that's, I think, if the SEC is going to beat its chest and say, wow, we don't like these AQ things, and we think 5 plus 11, the Big Ten is the bad guy. And now you could say, well, Ohio State, they're not being a bad guy about it. They're just saying, if that's the way it's going to be, and you want to cut that part out, and you don't want a mediocre Ole Miss team having a chance to compete for the college football playoff, the Buckeyes are cool with that. And they're going to be the voice. Make no question about that. There is a spot where Ohio State is already exerting its will. Mm-hmm. And Tony Petitti cannot alienate Ohio State when it comes to year in, year out financial units for the conference. The TV money goes through Ohio State, and the college football playoff money goes through Ohio State on the most consistent basis. Yeah. So if the Buckeyes are saying that, you better pay attention.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State is the one brand that could blow up the whole Big Ten. I know Michigan joked about leaving the Big Ten or maybe they weren't joking.
I don't think they were joking.
They probably should have, for all intents and purposes. But Ohio State it goes out of its way at times to be diplomatic and to be the face of the Big Ten and the voice of the little guy around the league. But we don't live in that world anymore. You have to determine for yourselves, this is what's best for our program. And the Big Ten has done a lot of really great things over the last few years. The expansion, I think, was smart. I think that you've seen the league really change its footprint, not just actually geographically, but the way that they've been stepping is different because they don't need to play kowtow to the SEC anymore. That's what's happened for the last 20 years. It's stopped in the last couple, and there's no reason for it to go back. So if the SEC gets 4, the Big Ten needs to get 4. If it's 5, they get 5. I don't care what it is, but the Big Ten shouldn't ever turn around and say, well, we're in deference to the SEC, and nobody more than Ohio State who says we do whatever is best for us.
Yeah, I do feel like I still don't prefer the 4-4-2-2-1 model. And I think that it's going to come at the expense of aggressive non-conference scheduling.
But I appreciated Ross Bjork saying that on Thursday as well. Hey, maybe we don't need to play these games. he's saying the SEC needs to play 9 conference games. Like the little things, there was more demonstrative nature of Ross Bjork, I think, in retrospect than maybe it felt at the time. But he's also very good at like balancing his words.
Well, and I think it is it's not to play a comparison game. I think it's just refreshing to hear, well, we can see merits on 4-4-2-2-1 and 5+11. We can understand why this program might want to play 8 games outside the league, and everybody's different and they have rivals. We've heard that from not just previous athletic directors here, but across the college football, college athletics landscape. I think that there was more specific details about what Ohio State thinks it should look like in there than in real time it felt like to me. And it was almost like, oh, maybe he's right. 4-4-2-2-1 would be good. Because Ryan Day said the same thing. So I think that
I don't know what that means. 4-4-2-2-1.
4 automatic bids for the Big Ten, 4 automatic bids for the SEC, 2 automatic bids for the ACC, 2 automatic bids for the Big 12, 1 to the highest ranked Notre Dame or group of 5 team, and then an at-large. So
that's still 12?
It's a 16-team model.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's fine.
3 at-large bids.
Yeah, fine. Perfect.
I think it comes.
It has to go to 16. I mean, we've talked about this.
Sure, but I think it didn't necessarily assuage my concerns, because I do believe if you say you have 4 guaranteed bids for the Big Ten, Ohio State has no motivation or need, desire, however you want to put it, to play Georgia, Alabama, Texas outside of the conference ever again. Now, if it was clearing the way for what I want, which is 12 Big Ten games and 12 SEC games, great. Then hand out these clear-cut paths to get there and 4 automatic bids. Without that, I said, this is nonsense.
Yeah, it has to be that way. Like, you can't have, and this is the problem with college football, like you have all these leagues, everyone plays by different rules, everyone has different standards. Like, the NFL doesn't have 16 teams that play, 3 division games and another 16 teams that play 6 division games. Like, everyone has to be the same. So,
yeah.
But I think everyone has to be real with themselves and acknowledge that the SEC and the Big Ten get to make the rules. Like, they are the people they're the money winners. They're the champions on the field. Like, they get to make the rules, and the rest of the conferences around the college football, and by the rest I mean the ACC and the Big 12, because we know this is going to 4 power conferences at some point. It seems inevitable. The rest of college football, the group of 5s or whatever they're called, like, it's going to be its own thing. So, like, all of this that's happening is just one more step toward eventually paring it all down, because you can't expect Toledo and Ohio State to be in the same sport at some level. That's going to have to stop.
Other sports maybe, but not football.
Sure.
So,
like women's basketball,
made for a really busy Thursday in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, and outside on the outdoor fields in the indoor practice facility. 4th single-day camp was ongoing, and now that paves the way as well for a, I don't know, what's the right word for it? Loaded recruiting weekend?
I mean, it's a pretty important one. You've got 10 official visitors coming in for Ohio State, including all 3 of their offensive line commitments, Sam Greer, Maxwell Riley, Tucker Smith from out in Arizona. You've got CJ Santa making his official visit, the linebacker from Olentangy. He's here this weekend so that he can be around Sincere Johnson, as Sincere Johnson and his Glenville teammate Jameer Perez make their official visits. Jameer committed to Florida. I said Kentucky the other day because to me, Florida and Kentucky are like the same program at this point.
Where did you say that? On our show, I thought you said Florida.
No, I said Kentucky. Someone in the comments was like, hey, you said Kentucky.
Oh.
Well, like, oh, man.
Clarification.
I make mistakes. Who else we got? I don't want to be... Akine Ogboko, an offensive lineman from North Carolina who's a Georgia legacy. PJ Dean from South Carolina, defensive tackle, big-time target for Ohio State. Jackson Samuels Ford, who's a defensive end from Pittsburgh area, and then Danny Odom, a corner from Florida. So you got double-digit guys after only 3 official visitors last week. The Buckeyes did have Darius Gray, a top priority interior lineman, on campus on Tuesday and Wednesday. He left on Thursday morning, so I'll try to get a hold of him as I get on my way home today. But overall, like, this is a big weekend for Ohio State. When you talk about the 4 of the 10 visitors are already committed, PJ Dean is a player that's very high on the list, and I think probably leaning toward Ohio State. The same can be said for Sincere Johnson and Jameer Perez. So I think then you get 7 guys all of a sudden. And if you got 7 out of 10 guys who are here that are working toward, hey, we're all committed. We're like, it makes the weekend feel a whole lot different for Danny Odom, the corner from Florida, for Jackson Samuels Ford, the defensive lineman from Pennsylvania, and of course for PJ Dean. Like, now things start to get really moving along. So I think that this is a pretty big weekend. It's not next weekend. Next weekend is monster.
That's
weekend.
the monster.
But this one is pretty damned important for Ohio State as they start to try to move this class from where it is now, which is like the second or third ranked class in the country, depending on who you look at, to a class that is like 80% complete, because right now there's still only 14 commits and they need 25 or so.
Ohio State came out of last weekend, picked up one commitment on Sunday. The other happened on Tuesday, I believe.
Tuesday night, Kerry Wilder, the defensive tackle,
Yeah.
defensive end from California. We've not talked about it here yet, but from Gardena, California. Really interesting. We talked, like, one visit a month ago he was offered, steps into the campus and says, hey, this is where I want to be. Kerry Wilder, we've seen photos of him now, like, he's listed as a defensive tackle or defensive lineman on some of the recruiting stuff that they don't want to specify too much, but at 6'4" and 260 pounds, super long, he's going to be a defensive end for Ohio State.
Or a 3-tech.
He's a guy that grows into that 6'4", 285, but he's got really long arms, really long levers all over the place. And I think that he's a guy that Buckeyes fans are going to not hear much about. He's not going to talk a lot. He's not going to be out there doing a lot of chest pumping and recruiting for Ohio State, but Matt Patricia, Larry Johnson were both at his house a month ago. From things I heard, like, they were, well, let's go watch him practice. We don't know what to expect. And then he goes to practice and he's playing tight end and like catching seam routes over safeties, like mossing people in the end zone. They're like, this is not what we expected to see. And so the Buckeyes actually feel like, from an athletic standpoint, he is like elite. But his national recruiting profile and all that stuff is a little bit underwhelming, just because he didn't do a lot of other stuff. But he's at Juniper Cerro High School, which is a very good program out there in Gardena. And the more you can keep putting crossroads out there into California, into Texas, into Florida, and Georgia, like, that's still where the Buckeyes want to live. And they wasted zero time finding out that Kerry Wilder was the right guy for them.
Are you on high alert for anything coming out of this weekend?
Well, we know that Sincere Johnson will make a college football decision on the 19th, so that's next Thursday.
Okay.
We know that. So it is, of course, positive probably for Ohio State that he was
that
here.
They got the last visit.
That he was here on Monday, and then he's here this weekend. Yeah. He's here with his teammate, Jameer Perez. Obviously, those guys are very close with Arvell Reese and the Glenville contingent that's here. I would be shocked if Jameer Perez doesn't end up flipping to Ohio State at some point.
Ooh.
What that does for PJ Dean and what it does for other guys who are supposed to come in next weekend, like Deuce Gerald's, we'll find out. The Buckeyes probably need 3 defensive tackles in this class. So if you have the momentum here with PJ Dean, and then you had Jameer Perez, maybe you start to get a little bit more leverage with guys like Deuce Gerald's, who you've been waiting on for a while, and then you have other bigger names that are coming into town. So I think all 3 of those guys, Jameer Perez, PJ Dean, and Sincere Johnson, are very likely to end up in the Ohio State class. Mm-hmm. We'll see what happens with Jackson Ford this weekend. He's a kid that is flying under the radar a little bit. Like, he's visited Penn State, took his official there, but I don't know that anyone's pushed all in on him yet. And so the Buckeyes have a pretty huge need at defensive end. We'll see if the numbers need forces them a little bit, because I don't think that anyone's really been ready to go all in on Jackson Samuels Ford. Mm-hmm. But we'll see if they have to, based on just need.
You excited to get home?
Yes, I haven't been home in 5 days, so excited for Father's Day weekend.
What's on tap?
Dance recital.
Another one?
Well, this is
You're such a dance guru.
This is not a competition. This is a recital.
Oh, just a one performance.
This is a one-off, but they have to be there for dress rehearsal at 11 a.m. And the actual recital isn't till 5. So we have to take her to dance recital, warm up, dress rehearsal at 11, pick her back up at 1:30, and then have her back there at 4:30.
This is Saturday?
Sunday.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Did they not look at a calendar?
On Father's Day, this is what we're doing. Well,
I think you are allowed to opt out of that.
I'm not. The last dance competition was Mother's Day weekend. So it's been it's
just call out this organization that keeps.
I don't know who they are. They change every. But whatever. The kids love dance.
Find a calendar.
Kids love dance. Everyone loves it. Other than that,
okay, so that's your Sunday.
What Saturday? Well, I don't have anything else to do.
Oh, okay. Well, so
I was actually thinking about going up to the Reds-Tigers game on Saturday. So we'll see.
If your Sunday is booked with dance recital, then you should have a green light to go see the Reds and Tigers.
That's very likely what will happen. We'll go to Detroit on Saturday and watch the Redlegs and the Tigres. The Tigers are the best team in baseball, and the Reds are my favorite team, even though I hate them. So it works out great.
Liberty's recital was at 7 o'clock on a Saturday night. I got a real problem with that. Dublin Dance Center. We can't be having this.
It's not right. It's not right.
Liberty was too distracted. She knew she was missing money in the bank. So that was a rough scene.
Other than that, it's, we're heading into the end of June. We are middle of June, I guess. So, but you know what happens directly after the middle of June? The end of June.
The end of June, yeah.
And it happens so fast, it doesn't matter. But we're going to keep my intention for those of you watching this on 97.1, the Fans YouTube channel, or 10 TV Plus or whatever, is to have some iteration of a Talking Stuff probably Sunday night. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it with the dance rehearsal and recital and all that. If not, then Monday night. Because we have a camp on Monday. Austin and I will maybe just do a sit down and do an extended version of Talking Stuff where we can dive a little bit more into the recruiting stuff that's happening, especially coming off of this massive weekend, and then heading into next week's massive weekend. Next weekend maybe massiver.
Most massive.
Yeah, but it's all important.
Massive
for Ohio State. So recruiting is not slowing down, even though they're trying to figure out how to balance the new world with the old world. And watching teams around the country try to shoehorn in big deals at the front-loaded end of it to say that it counted against other caps. We'll see. I don't know how you do that for players that aren't on your team, but
it's going to be a lot of creative math because until last Friday night, there wasn't really any recourse. The House settlement wasn't in place, and the CSC could not do anything to them. But that will be changing immediately. So that's going to be fun to watch all that play out. Excited for a fun weekend as well with my family. I don't know what they're doing for me. Saturday's supposed to be a surprise, and somehow both of those girls have kept it a secret from me all week long.
Yeah, I know what it is.
I don't. What?
Yeah, they told me.
Oh my gosh!
I'm not going to tell you that.
You're the only one I think I might be able to coerce.
Just wear your water shoes. That's all I'm saying.
Gross.
Actually, I don't even know what.
That better not be it. Well, it's 50% chance of rain. Either way, whatever you were doing with your families this weekend, if you are a father, if you had a father once, role model, stepfather, anybody, have a great Father's Day weekend. Celebrate to the fullest. And then come back on Monday to 97.1 The Fan, 10 TV, 10 TV Plus, anywhere that you download podcasts. Look for Austin Birm because it's the Austin Birm Show. Tabs
it is.
If you're nasty. Thanks for spending this week with us. A lot more coverage coming your way as things continue to pick up for Ohio State football and the season gets another week closer. For Birm, I'm Austin. We'll see you on Monday.